Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
Hello, I am your host, Duck, and this is a special Learn Photography with Duck video. In today's video, I'm going to be walking through how to make a DIY diffusion panel. Now, when you have a studio, light control is very important. And in my studio, I have all kinds of different styles and types of diffusion panels in order to be able to control light. Everything from simple pieces of cloth to, soft boxes and things like that. But in this particular case, I needed something that was a little bit robust, that could stand up over time, and looked somewhat professional. So for today's DIY build, what I'm going to be showing you how to do is using extruded aluminum tubing and some vinyl diffusion material to create diffusion panels. So come along and join me. So what I'm going to be doing today is showing you how I make a diffusion panel out of some extruded aluminum tubing, some corners, and some diffusion material that I bought from a camera store. I wanted to take a few minutes to kind of show you my process. So this is one of the panels that I've made already, and it was made with a very specific dimension in mind to work with my product photography table. But I needed some diffusion panels to go on the sides, so I measured the space that I needed, and I bought myself some extruded aluminum piping. This is 3/4 inch extruded aluminum with the 90-degree corner connections. And I now have a very lightweight but very sturdy frame to attach my diffusion material to. Now the diffusion material I'm using is the PVC base. It's not material. It's actually a vinyl material, and it's sold, as you can see, it's sold in rolls. And I've made quite a few diffusions panels with this, and so I only have a little bit left, but it serves my purpose because I just need 2 small panels to begin with. So I've already gone and assembled my panel. So I'm going to put that aside for a second. And what I need to do is I need to attach the material to the panel. And for that, I'm just going to use regular double-sided tape. Now, you have to be careful what kind you get. Buy the good one. This is Scotch brand, but Scotch makes 2 different levels. This one's kind of like a heavy-duty double-sided mounting, not mounting tape, but just regular tape. But they also have one that is less adhesive. And don't get that because this will just curl right off of it. Also, some people have suggested mounting tape. But in my opinion, mounting tape is a little bit on the thick side. It's got that kind of like rubber gel feel to it. And in my opinion, it gives a little bit too much for my taste. I didn't even want to go with that process. Plus, it's a lot more expensive. This is very inexpensive. You can buy it at an office supply store, and you're good to go. You're going to need a pair of scissors and an X-Acto knife or a utility knife, and any kind of spring clamp will come in handy. These, if you're in a photo studio, you should have tons of these, and I'll show you how to use those in a second. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure the amount of plastic or diffusion that we're going to need. and you want to cut it a little oversized in order to be able to mount it properly. All right, so as you can see, I'm going to have a little bit of leftover, which is okay because I can always make a smaller panel out of this. And as you can see, I'm at the end of my roll. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this off. Actually, let me cut this. And give yourself a little bit of working room, because you're going to need it in order to apply the diffusion material. And you can always trim it down to the size that you need. I'm going to cut there. And then I'm going to cut across. All right. And I now have my panel. Now, the one thing you're going to notice with this material is because it's stored on a roll, it has the propensity to just roll up on you. And that's where these clamps come into place. You're going to want to place some clamps on each side. And what this does is it allows it to just, by the weight of the clamps, keep flat to your working table. All right. It's also another reason why you should have a little bit of excess so you have something to clamp onto. So now I have the clamps assisting me to help keep this fairly flat. And then what we need to do is just apply our double-sided tape, lay it down, and then trim the excess. All right, so I'm just going to adjust my clamps, make sure I have plenty of clearance here. Looks like I do. If you need to apply additional clamps on the side, you're more than free to do that. Okay, so we're ready to apply our tape. And the first part is just applying the double-sided tape to your frame. Now I have a 3/4 inch frame, and I'm using a 1/2 inch tape because I find that using a 3/4 inch tape, the tolerance is just not quite there, and the tape is actually a little bit wider than the tube, because the tube has a little bevel to it, and then you get this gummy buildup on the edges, which is kind of distracting. It collects all kinds of dirt and leaves a residue on your fingers, which can very easily transfer to a product, and that's not what you need. All right, so I got one side down. I'm just going to make my way all the way around, all 4 sides. All right, and the other thing I'm doing is I am applying the tape, because it is 1/2 inch on 3/4. I'm applying it closer to the outside than the inside. All right. That way, I have maximum adhesion on the outer edge of the frame, and then by handling it, you're not, catching the edge of the diffusion material. All right. Because I already made one frame, I have now exhausted this roll. All right. So depending on the size of the frame, you want to make sure that you have enough tape material to cover all your bases. I bought a 3-pack. It was definitely more than what I need for this particular project, but in case I need to make any additional panels out of other material, I have this available. Another type of double stick tape that I found is super, super awesome, that I've actually made diffusion panels with, is the double-sided carpet tape. And that one has some reinforced fiber in it. And it is ridiculously sticky. Once it goes down, you're not moving it. So that's another thing to consider if you want something that, you know, guarantees not going to move on you. All right, I got two sides done. Gonna do the other two sides. I'll fast forward the video. And we're done. All right, so now I have tape all the way around. And if you notice, I just kind of use my finger every so often to tack it down. Obviously, I don't want to, because it's double-sided, I don't want to be touching it with my fingers, because that just ruins the adhesion. We'll take care of that in the next step. So I have all four sides done. Now all I need to do is, because this is already laying fairly flat for me, I'm just going to line it up in between my clamps and go ahead and push it into my diffusion material. And there we go. All right, now I can remove the clamps. We don't need those anymore. Turn this over. And I'm just going to use the blunt end of my handle on my knife. And I'm just going to use it to press the diffusion material into the tape, which in turn presses the tape more evenly and more solidly into the frame. If you get any air bubbles, don't worry about it. It's not really going to affect it. Once we trim it, you'll notice those air bubbles kind of disappear. So just work your way all the way around. You can use your thumb too, but I find that the friction just kind of makes it a little warm. All right, one more side. Okay. Once all four sides are pressed in, it's time to just trim off the excess. And for that, like I said, you can use an X-Acto knife or a utility knife, anything, you know, with a sharp edge to it. And you're just gonna cut into and up to your aluminum tubing. Run it right along nice and evenly. All right, make sure you play it safe. We don't need any blood splattering onto our diffusion material. That's just not going to look very professional. So safety first. All right, and you want to make sure you're right up to the metal. You don't want any of that diffusion to overhang too much, because as you're handling it, you know, it tends to catch. So if you can avoid that, it just prolongs the longevity of your diffusion panel. Okay, one more side to do. And this panel is done. And it is literally as easy as it looks. Voila. Diffusion panel. The nice thing about these panels is I can put it into a set of clamps, just like this, and use it on a C-stand. It's got a built-in baby pit, okay? And you can literally manipulate this anywhere over your product. You can use it as backdrop, you can use it as top diffusion, side diffusion, all kinds of good stuff. Hope you enjoyed it. I will leave a link to where I got all the materials in the comments in the info section below. And I appreciate you watching.